The date is Wednesday, March 26, 2025. Commissioner Jim Franklin is absent today, and Commissioner Brian Payne is attending virtually. Thank you, Brian. I will now open the meeting and take a roll call. I'm Kalina Vendetti and Dot McFarlane.
Yes.
And Megan Hickey.
Yes.
And Buzz Artiano.
Here.
And Marilyn Cozadoy.
Here.
Thank you. And Brian's here.
Yes,
Online.
here.
Thank you. Please note, we're doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. If a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during a public hearing, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and you'll be assigned a speaking time. And if you're listening in via telephone dial-in, press *9 to raise your hand and then press *6 to unmute yourself. This meeting's being recorded by the local scene and we're very grateful. And a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they're able. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify me at this time. All right. Here's an additional announcement. Kingston's Open Space Committee is still seeking a new member. The committee assists conservation in overseeing the management and use of conservation properties to help all of us better access and utilize these resources in a positive way. This is an opportunity for a resident to assist in implementing the town's open space plan, help improve parking and trails, and identify future conservation and passive recreation priorities for the town, among other benefits. You may inquire by calling the Conservation Department at 781-585-0537 or by emailing Juliana Denham at jdenham@kingstonma.gov. That's JDENUM at KINGSTONMA.gov. Thank you. The first order is signing documents. What needs to be signed?
We have the orders of conditions for 10 Shore Drive, and we have a bill for Hunt's Photo and Video for a camera. We print today. Mike's on.
Mine's on.
He said okay.
We're okay now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start over. We have the orders of conditions for 10 Shore Drive. We have Hunt's Photo and Video for a camera for site visits. We print today for hard copies of the Open Space and Recreation Plan, which is now at the library, if anybody wants to see it in person. And we have a copy in the Conservation Office. And we have Apex for MS4 support for February, and we have Sumco for the Phase 1 construction for Sampson's Headwater Restoration Project.
Okay, are they floating down this way?
Yep.
Are they all in there?
Got it.
All right, so that's done. Moving on to action items. And I'll now open up public meeting to discuss the request for certificate of compliance for Eversource's Carver to Kingston Reliability Project. This is file number SE037-0920. Can you tell us any comments on that, Matt?
Yeah, so there was an issue last time with the language, not really having a certification on the as-built. So we did receive a letter February 14th from the survey manager at VHB, who was consultant on the project, and it details that they received the as-built structured data certifying the post-construction conditions, and says the data was compared to the proposed locations as VHB staked out, located within areas under the Commission's jurisdiction. And they found the installed pole locations to be plus or minus within 10 feet of the proposed pole locations, and found that the as-built locations caused no additional impact within jurisdictional areas. I had sort of hinted to, the applicants that I thought that language was still a little on the weak side, and they did follow up with a letter from Brian, I think it's Bernier, the project manager at Eversource, detailing that the installation of that line for the Carver to Kingston Reliability Project was completed in Kingston, and that as the project manager overseeing the work, line 147 was built to design specifications and as proposed in the original NOI application without deviation from the approved plans. All work was completed in compliance with the orders of conditions issued by the Kingston Conservation Commission and on the modified OOCs that were received in 2021. All work was completed fall 2023, and final restoration of the work paths was reached in fall of 2024. So it's up to the commission how they feel about these things. It's a transmission line project. On one hand, you see that everything was within the OOCs, and on the other one, it was plus or minus 10 feet. Plus or minus 10 feet could be a really big deal on some projects. On this project, I would doubt that that would be the case, given what I know of the project and what all of the project looked like after they were done with site establishment. So, can ask any questions. I know they're here right now through Zoom if you have questions, but I have no real concerns on this. I just think we needed better language than was provided at a minimum, and we did at least have something now where we have two people who have stated that, more or less everything was in compliance.
Do you have any comments, Mr. DeFusco?
Hi, good evening. My name is Peter DeFusco. I'm a senior environmental specialist with Eversource. The only comment I have is it's actually 3 people that we provided certification from, 2 professional land surveyors and 1 project manager. I can give a briefing of the project. Madam Chair, I believe last time it was the Vice Chair who was present, if it would be helpful to you.
Would it be helpful?
But in summary, we completed the project as proposed. It's buffer zone only. We've closed out in Carver and Plimpton, as well as a notice of termination under our construction general permit. And we're just trying to cross the T's and dot the I's here and close out here in Kingston tonight.
Any questions or comments from members of the commission?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public, in person or online, who has any comments? No. Do I hear a motion?
So I would make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the request, and we have a second. We'll take a vote. Dot?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Colleen is a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for 2 Wildwood Circle, filed in retrospect for construction of a large play structure within jurisdiction. The applicant has requested continuance while they file a notice of intent. Okay, so I'm going to continue that. Do you have any comments, Matt?
I would just say we have to pick a date. They just filed the NOI, haven't even reviewed it for completion yet.
Do you have any idea how much time?
I mean, I would say a couple months to be,
Oh, okay.
just to keep it from continuing to pop up. So what is it now, through 26?
So are you looking at May? Into
Let's
May?
say May 28th.
Is there a representative or applicant here online?
No.
All right, are there any comments on this from the public present in person or online? Okay, so do I hear a motion to continue this matter to May 8th?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, a There's been a motion, and it's been seconded to continue this to May 28th. I'm going to take a vote on that. Dot?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Colleen is a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Great. I'll now open a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for MAP 48, Lot 16, on Howlands Lane, filed by the Pilgrim John Howland Society. Do you have any comments, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, we could either have these guys get up and kind of present why they wanted to do the project or something like that, and then I can give my staff report after, if that's,
Would that be more comfortable for you?
Sure.
I think it would be helpful to the public if we do it that way.
Do I go over there?
Please come up to the podium and just identify yourself for the record.
You make sure the mic's on?
Yeah, look, make sure the little green light is on your
It is.
mic. Okay,
Thank
great,
you.
thanks.
My name's Peter Arenstam. I'm the Executive Director of the Pilgrim John Howland Society. And we've been working towards getting National Register of Historic Places designation for our land at Rocky Nook as a way to preserve, protect, as well as promote it on a national level. I'm going to read what Eldon just gave me. The purpose of the project is the conservation of Joseph Howland House archaeological site for visitors and wildlife to share the open space that was once an orchard and meadow. Removing the undergrowth will allow the exposure of the ancient stone walls that are the oldest in New England. This plan will restore it to its original state and allow management of the area for conservation purposes in a natural setting, as well as serving as the buffer for the wetlands behind the tree line.
Thank you. Matt, do you have any comments?
sure, and I can share my screen as well, just pull the plan up.
Please have a seat. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have any way of like orientating me where that is on the property?
See how much?
Sure. So, right up top here, where it says Howlands Lane, that's Howlands Lane.
I tried.
I love you, man.
I was gonna kind of point that
Can you
out.
just like pull up Google Maps and like show us the aerial view?
Yeah,
Because I was staring at this thing and I'm pretty familiar with that piece and I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out where they were going.
It's right after Cole Street, isn't it? Not too far down.
Do you know where the Joseph Howland marker is on Howland's Lane?
Okay.
I don't know it that well.
Yeah.
I didn't know
just
that
give me a
one
minute,
either.
I'll pull it up on maps.
Yeah, I know, but I can't figure out where I'm
No.
at on the park.
You wouldn't, it's a little bitty tiny thing across from the house.
Okay, so right here. So you have Standish Ave, Lay Road. Here's the Nook Preserve, the Wildlands Trust property. It's in between the Nook Preserve and private parcels to the south. I believe it's actually just to the north of the 48 Howlands property that was in front of the commission a few years ago. So there's just this little clearing right here near Howlands Lane is the area that you'll see on the plan that I just had up, the sketch plan that I had just shared. So essentially, most of the site is forested. Downslope, you have the salt marsh and the river, but up here, you're pretty well away from that, but the wetlands do come up higher here than in other parts of this area. So, does that answer your?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay. pull the other one back up. All right, so existing conditions at the site are mixed between native floodplain forest, successional areas, often dominated by invasive species, has pretty heavy garlic mustard in the understory, which is gonna be problematic for them, I'm sure, and disturbed areas. A lot of this site is covered in like a black plastic sheeting underneath a lot of the dirt and vegetation. I think it was something that was left as a protective layer after archaeological surveys. The wetlands, it's a BVW, was delineated by Michael Ball of Marsh Matters Environmental on January 25th of 2025. The filing does not request determination of resource area boundaries, only whether the work proposed is subject to the state and local regulations. The wetlands are, I said here, but are much closer to Howland's Lane than I had thought. I visited the site with Eldon in November of 2024 before they filed. I did not inspect any soils or hydrology, just from looking at plants and general conditions. I had thought the wetlands were much further back on the property. So since then, they have updated their sketch plan to eliminate work within the actual wetland. So they have changed their plan for that, which is good. The sketch plan has notes on it through some of the, scheduling and the way work would be done, but most of it says to be determined from conversations with Conservation Commission and a professional archaeologist. The sketch plan shows mowed grass areas created using a short grass seed mix, which is mixed native and non-native species, interspersed with what they called forested areas to remain as is. The sides of the property would receive a tall meadow grass seed mix. So anywhere you see on the plan these sort of taller grass icons, that's the meadow grasses. The meadow grass mix is primarily native grass species, and it does have a couple of fescues for quick green up and establishment, because the native ones often take a few years to fill in. There's a couple of small areas of roadside erosion control mix, but those are out of jurisdiction. When you look at this sketch plan, blue is the wetland line, green is the 30-foot no landscaping setback, and the red is the 100-foot buffer. I know that's not the typical color pattern you're all used to, but it wasn't an NOI filing, so I didn't beat it up. Within the 30-foot no landscaping setback from KWPR 10.07B 1 and 2, mowed grass area and mowed grass pathways are proposed, as is a wood rail fence and interpretive sign. There's I believe right here in the blue indicates spring, or what was called a spring years ago. Now it's a boulder. It's just sort of a big rock plopped on top of it. You don't see any water typically there, at least not when I was on site. They had intended earlier to have, and I think that actually showed up as further back on the previous plan, and it showed a trail to that with that stuff back here. So that was a little unclear as far as, where all of that actually is and what's happening there. It's debatable as to whether the mowed areas and the mowed pathway areas count as landscaping in this instance, given the existing conditions. The fencing certainly would count as landscaping. The project may have special consideration of the public benefit and walking paths connecting the historic features, but there may also be ways to minimize potential impact. One would be specifically conditioning the project that no chemicals, pesticides, or fertilizers could be used within jurisdictional areas, and no grass clippings will be dumped on site. In that case, you'd have a mowed mix of native, non-native grasses close to the resource areas, but without the typical detrimental impacts of turf. Another would be to reconfigure the pathway surfacing to something that would not be considered landscaping, and replace the mowed grass area within the 30-feet buffer with the tall grass mix. Even in that case, if the meadow were tall, the well would still be visible along the trail. So that was just sort of an idea. I mean, right now, technically, you have a situation that may not meet KWPR setbacks because of the no landscaping, but it's a little bit of a different situation. My recommendations were that the commission has concerns or suggestions regarding the removal, planting, or maintenance of vegetation at the site. Now is the time to discuss them. In general, I believe these practices will enhance wildlife habitat and ecological health at the site, as well as the buffer zone's capacity to protect the BVW and any resource areas downslope. But we'd also need to make sure no heavy machinery were to be used, and if so, specific conditions would be needed. Specifically, if you have concerns about potential landscaping activities within 30 feet of the BVW, they should be discussed now. So I would say you'd either issue a -3 DOA or continue the meeting, suggesting that the applicant meet the 30-foot no landscaping requirements. And I did include all of the landscaping section in KWPR for reference with some sort of bolded areas as I kind of went through already. It's probably enough from me.
I'd like to hear what the commission has to say.
I have a question about the plastic sheeting. How extensive is that?
Well, it's invariant where our.
You need to go up.
Come back up to the podium so we can get you on the
Sorry.
record. Thanks a lot.
Sure. The black plastic, as Matt mentioned, is placed there after archaeological digs. So they dig in the ground, find artifacts of historic value, and then later cover over with plastic to protect the site. And it's mostly in where the foundation of the house site, correct me if I'm wrong, Eldon, where the foundation of Joseph Howland's house foundation was. So not the entire area, but just around that house foundation.
Is it your plan to remove it?
The plastic,
Yeah,
I don't believe so.
yeah. The plastic will deteriorate and end up making more fine plastics that wash into the river. In my opinion, it should be removed. I don't know what that does to the dig, but if it's going to cover it with grass
Yeah,
anyway.
it's generally covered with dirt.
Yeah,
So it's not on the surface.
it doesn't matter.
It's still there.
It's
Right.
still there.
Sure.
It would, yeah, I actually believe it should be removed.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you have to talk to the archaeology people about it. but,
Right.
It doesn't belong there.
Well, is it Craig Chardier's common practice to leave that in place?
I think it's a common archaeology, not just Craig Chartier. And because it's a ongoing archaeological site, we have dug there multiple years in the past. The last time was 2 years ago, I want to say now.
You're gonna dig through the grass anyway, so
Sure.
there's no reason to put that stuff there. No, and anybody that will tell you that's in the business anymore, do not use that plastic stuff. It's just
Yeah.
negative all around.
I can't speak to it archaeologically.
I can't either, I don't know them.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Anything else from the commission?
So, Matt, I'm assuming you've been to this site?
Yep.
And so is it all this area they're talking about work on, this is all previously disturbed?
A lot of it is previous, I mean, at one point it was all a meadow, you know, a couple hundred years ago, but has grown in over the years. Like I said, a lot of it, you know, if you look at where it says where the wetland line is, that blue line, everything south of that is intact forest, but none of that is being touched. Some of what's between the blue and red line, I mean, you saw the aerial imagery, there's plenty of trees there. It's not like it's completely cleared, but the understory has been cleared. Obviously, they did the archaeological work in there. A lot of invasives have been established in there. I told Eldon they're gonna have a tough time with this project trying to get meadow established when the site right now is covered in garlic mustard. It's really, really hard to compete with.
Even see barbed wire fencing.
And Eldon was just saying there's barbed wire fence in there too. So, yeah, it's definitely a disturbed site. It's not by any means, you know, taking a pristine forest site and
And what's that little?
landscaping it. It's just,
Yeah,
you know.
what's that little blue blob
That's
down at
the
the,
spring.
in the middle at the wetland line?
So, yeah, I pointed that out before, that I assume is in place to mean the spring, but I did notice that on the October 24 version of this plan, that was further to the south. So that was a little bit concerning in that we want to make sure whatever's approved here is actually what ends up happening. And on the old plan, if you can see the cursor, the blue blob was more down here, and there was a trail leading to it.
Yeah, I have a copy of that.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is okay to show this way.
I could pass it down so everybody can see it. I mean, I could pull it up here too, but it's,
And so what is the purpose of the little trail that goes close to the wetland line?
The blue wetland line isn't, the blue wetland line on what we're passing around is exactly the same as what's on the screen for the
The-
wetland line.
The blue blob, as you call it, represents the spring for Joseph Howland's house, place where they got water. And our thought was to have a pathway to it with some sort of sign, sort of describing what it is and why you're looking at it.
Okay. So, is there any reason why the path just can't just go to the well and then go back instead of making that big loop?
Well, look at that, it might not pass the spring.
I think in reality, that's the way it's gonna be. It'll be a path to that spring and back out.
Well, I guess my question is, to me, when I'm looking at this drawing, again, I'm not sure how to read it 100%, but it says mowed grass pathway 5 to 7 feet in width, and it shows a loop, which I get, it's a nice area to walk, but unfortunately, it's between the 30 and the 100, 30 in the wetland, so, you know, technically, you're not supposed to be in there at all. I get that it's a previously disturbed site, and I get the historic value of the water source. I'm just wondering if we can limit that path and, you know, I get why you wanna do what you wanna do, and I
Sure.
respect that. I'm just wondering if we need to make that big, you know, loop, in other words, instead of just going straight from, you know, where it says short grass area down to the well.
Yeah, I think, oh, okay.
We, what we could do is just make a single path and use mulch and not grass over.
I'm okay with the grass, I just, you're asking to do a lot there, and I'm not sure that we can even let you do that, so, listen, I'm fine with it, I love the idea, I want you to make it beautiful, 100% behind it, just, we gotta make it work for everybody,
Right.
Yeah, perfect, thank you, yeah.
so.
And it's our intention to respect the environment, the archaeology, the
100%.
ecology, et cetera. So we're not trying to get
Not saying
something
you are at all.
we shouldn't.
And I'm not, you know, I'm not
Sure,
alluding to that at all.
yeah.
I'm just wondering if we can just, again, I don't know if that little spring is maybe to the left or the right, but I don't know if you can just, you know,
Yeah, I
make
don't
it-
know why Bob Hoxie, the, some of you may know his name, landscape designer,
Yeah, I just-
historic landscape designer, has drawn these plans. And the one that you're looking at now, I think represents more closely the actual site.
Yeah, well, so this one's actually worse than that one. So for lack of a better word, it's not, you actually, so you're on the other side, you're actually in the wetland on this plan. On that plan, you're on the edge of the wetland, so you know, again, I'm fine with it if you need a little path to the
spring.
well. But this big horseshoe thing, I don't know that we can do that. But
Okay,
again, this is one man speaking.
sure, sure.
I'm not the board, so.
Point of information for me, we take this information from you, and what's the next step for us?
Okay. Could we hear from Commissioner Payne? He's raised his hand.
Thank you. I'm behind the proposal. I think it's a very good idea. I've seen similar things in other towns. I can think of specifically one in Norwell that I walk by pretty frequently, very similar setup like this. But as a historian and educator, I don't see a ton of value of extending it so close to the wetlands just so that visitors can see this spring. I'm not sure of what the educational value comes from that you're not getting already by what else is there. I think if you could basically go up to the green line with your site development, and then between the green and the blue line, try to do something that's more focused on the ecology and less on the history. And I say that knowing that I'm a historian, and that's kind of weird for me to say, but the second thing is I'd also like to support the comment about eliminating the plastic. I really don't think that's common practice anymore. I'm not an archaeologist, but I don't see that very often, and I think there are better strategies to use to preserve underground historical sites than plastic these days. So I would like to have something in the proposal that specifically states that that plastic would be removed. Otherwise, I'm very much in favor.
I had a question. Understanding that you want people to recognize what this site is and what it was, is there some way to do an interpretive piece that would stay out of all of our jurisdiction, have a map, a sketch, and identify the spring and whatever else, the foundation of the house, and stay out of our jurisdiction?
Yes, very much so. We, on the John and Elizabeth Howland side, east side of the street.
Yeah,
We have a kiosk there with some maps. I don't know when the last time you folks were up there, but,
it's been a while.
and so it would be something like that, probably back by the monument, that's Howland Society Monument there in the middle where it says existing large cedar tree. So you're on the site, kind of orienting you and, with some sort of illustration, that might help people. The tricky thing I think about is when you tell people there's a spring back there in the woods, people are gonna wanna go back and see it, so.
But even how visible is it?
I can pull up a picture of it.
I mean, I saw the picture of the rock.
Well, maybe you could add something on your little kiosk about it's located within the buffer to the wetlands.
Yes.
We're trying to bring
Mhm.
back ecology to the area
Yeah.
and restore it, to naturalize it, so maybe it'll help keep people out of there.
That's a good,
You know, with this
And not-
project
yeah.
also includes restoration
And not
to-
making a path to it.
Right,
so.
right.
Sure.
But that way, at least you're giving them that historical info and hopefully keeping them out of there.
And just to point out though, some of near that spring or well, we think it's more like a well
Mhm.
because it's circulated with stone. But also there's deer trails that come through there. So
Right.
people normally are using that as walking trails
Right.
naturally. So
Right.
even if we didn't change anything, there'd still be access to
Right.
it,
Right.
to that area because of the deer trails.
That is a good point. There are already trails there. People and deer already use them. Somebody had a deer camera strapped to one of the trees when I was there checking the site out at one point.
It's good.
The only other thing I would also bring up, having heard you mention barbed wire, is could you get it out of there? Only a little bit, well,
So yeah, if I may add a little bit, just in terms of the staying out of jurisdiction completely, they definitely have the ability to do that as it is right now. I think that's the way it is. The site is just used passively, but has a pretty high load of non-native invasive species. So I definitely think there is potential for improvement to the site while also making the site more useful for people.
Okay,
I
so-
think
so-
that's a great idea.
so there's a
Talking about the
win-win.
30-foot, minimizing the amount of work that's in the 30-foot, for sure.
Yeah, again, I respect it, you know, everyone's opinion, but if I'd rather control that everybody's just walking in a certain path than just letting them go willy-nilly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to go see the thing, so.
It doesn't look
But
like there's anything
That's
there
it
to
right now
see
on the
but a
screen,
rock.
that's the spring.
Right.
That looks
But it's,
dry.
you know, it's pretty cool.
It's gonna be nice, so they wanna come back.
Really cool.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been.
I've never seen it.
Do we have any comments from members of the public present or present online? All right, so how do you want to go forward with this? Do you want to continue this?
So should we continue and give you the opportunity to chew this over?
How long would you need? We have meetings roughly every 2 weeks.
Yeah, come on.
We'll have Bob Hoxie work on a new plan, taking in your input, and come back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Does that work?
April 9th?
Does that work, Eldon?
Did you say April 9th?
April 9th?
Do I have a motion to continue this matter to April 9th?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to continue to April 9th, and it's been seconded. Dot?
Yes?
Megan?
Yes.
Colleen is a yes. Buzz?
Yes,
Marilyn?
Yes,
And Brian?
Yes.
Great, so we'll see you then.
Terrific. Thank you
Thanks a
very
lot.
much. Thank you for
Thank
your time.
Thank you.
And we have public hearing?
I'll make a point to go see it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Been down there a lot when I was a kid, but never noticed it.
If there's anyone who hasn't signed in, who's come into the meeting, would you please take this opportunity to sign in? Meanwhile, I reopen a hearing for the request for amendment for the proposed installation of a sediment forebay and rain garden within the 200-foot riverfront area of Smelt Brook. Matt, do you have any comments?
I got,
And this, by the way, is 20 Marion Drive.
no, oh yeah, sorry, yes. 20 Marion, AKA 1 Royson Drive. I had thought we didn't have a time necessarily to continue this to. We hadn't received the alternatives analysis yet. I did receive it this afternoon. So I haven't really had time to look at it yet, but I did forward it to Horsley Witten Group to ask them to provide a rough timeline for when they would be able to review it. I did not hear back from her. Let me double check my phone, see if I got an email while we were sitting here. Nope. So my recommendation was gonna be to push this out to May 28th and assume that within 2 months, she could probably get everything together and get back to us.
you went by the site and it was stable?
Yeah, I went by the site Thursday of last week with Larry, mainly to look at, we had talked about the areas where the ESC had already been removed, and he said they were stable. They were. This is the area, closest to Marion Drive. So I thought there was no point in putting more erosion control back there. I pointed out that there was some trash that needed to be picked up, which he said he would do, and I said he needed to talk to his landscaper about not blowing things towards the wetlands, and he said he would do that as well. So I did send him an email today just stating all of that so that he had the documentation that he does not have to put ESC back there. And I also felt that he had taken significant action to protect the area around the catch basin that had been problematic before. And I just told him, you gotta keep an eye on it. I mean, it was significant effort that I think will do a good job, but it's, if it gets passed again, you have to jump on it, I guess it's a tough site.
Before I ask for a motion, is there anyone in the public present or online who has comment on this? Do I hear a motion to continue this matter to May 28th?
Make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion that's been seconded to continue this matter to May 28th. Dot?
Yes?
Megan?
Yes.
Colleen is an aye. Buzz?
Yes,
Marilyn?
yes,
And Brian?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. We're going to move on to section B. This is 105 Monks Hill Road. This is for a notice of intent for the proposed construction of a dock on Smelt Pond and permitting of a pre-existing shed within the inland buffer zones. So I open the hearing for the notice of intent. And do you have any comments?
Might as well get a presentation. We have Paul Seberg from Grady online.
I beg your pardon?
We have Paul Seberg from Grady online. We might as well have them give a presentation on it first.
Would you like to do that, Mr. Seberg?
Yes, Paul Seberg from Grady Consulting here. Would it be okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, please.
All right, can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So this project is located at 105 Monks Hill Road. This site currently consists of a single-family residence on a 158,920 square foot lot. The property abuts Smelt Pond, which is to the north, and consists of bordering land subject to flooding, land under water bodies and waterways, and bordering vegetative wetland resource areas associated with the pond. The no disturb setbacks and buffer zone are based off of the bordering vegetative wetland, shown here in blue, since that is the most landward resource area. There is currently an existing dock on the property, shown here, and an existing shed adjacent to the pond. The condition of the dock is deteriorating. The applicants are proposing to remove the existing dock and construct a new dock in the same location, so their family can continue to enjoy access to the pond and recreational activities. The proposed dock consists of a 4-foot by 8-foot ramp, a 4-foot by 16-foot long dock section, and a 10 by 16-foot long platform at the end. In addition, there's an existing shed that's located approximately 19 from the bordering vegetative wetland. The shed was installed by the previous property owners and appears to be constructed around 2016, I would say, based off of historical aerial images. The current property owners were not aware that the shed did not comply with Kingston's wetland regulations, so they are seeking a variance in order to maintain the shed in its location within 40 feet of a resource area. There is space to relocate the shed to meet that setback requirement as an alternative, but that would require additional clearing of vegetation at this point and construction of a new foundation. So in order to minimize disturbance to the buffer zone and potential impacts to the resource area, the applicants are proposing mitigation consisting of native plantings, shown here in green. And with that said, I'd be happy to turn it over to any questions the commission may have.
Do you have any comments, Matt?
Sure. So, I won't repeat everything that he just said, so I'll skip through this a little bit. Conservation posts are shown as a plan detail. It says post locations to be determined by Conservation Commission. 'Cause I usually say without conservation posts, it's just landscaping. Plant species detailed are appropriate for the situation. The amount of mitigation seems appropriate for the situation. So they also propose to remove an existing unpermitted aluminum dock, saying it needs repair. I told Dave, the owner of the property, you know, in seeking retroactive permitting for a dock, if you think you ever want to make it any bigger or better or anything like that, now would probably be the time. So that I think is what they're looking to do now, is remove an older aluminum dock. The one that's there is seasonal. It has the supports in the water, and the bulk of it gets pulled out seasonally, at least it appears to on the aerial imagery. The dock appeared between 2008 and 2012 on GIS imagery. I'm not exactly sure. But they're looking to replace it now with a permanent dock design built to meet the standards of the Chapter 91 program, the state. This is a great pond. It was pointed out to me earlier today that with great ponds, you only own up to the edge of the water. So technically that dock would be installed on land that you don't own, but my understanding is the Chapter 91 permitting process deals with that. That is the program that does oversee the Great Pond issues. Spacing, meet the minimum standards on the decking. It details minimum 3/4 inch spacing between 6-inch wide decking to allow light through, so that meets standards of KWPR. The dock overlays the existing one. It looks like it expands less than 1 additional foot lengthwise into Smelt Pond. It adds an 8-foot ramp landward and increases the platform at the end of the dock to 10 feet by 16 feet, which is the maximum allowable in KWPR. The commission may require that no float or terminal portion of a dock shall exceed more than 160 square feet in area. The dock itself is well within the maximum set by KWPR, which is 4 feet by 150 feet. and the proposal makes the case that there are no better locations to build a new structure that would be less impactful to submerged vegetation, which is sensible given that there's been a structure there since 2008 to 2012. Support spacing meets the standards set in KWPR as well. 6-inch posts times 20 is 120 inches or 10 feet, which is what is proposed, so it just barely meets that standard. Project as proposed would result in 2.3% impervious surface within jurisdictional buffers, which is far less than the maximum under KWPR. Calls for an increase of 0.4% over the existing. Shed obviously does not meet the structure setback in KWPR as it's less than 40 feet. And this is an open pile foundation. So it's less than 40 feet to the BVW, BLSF, and land under water bodies and waterways. It's only 19 feet from the BVW. The applicant's representative provided a formal variance request that explains why such a variance should be issued. He got at a little bit of that there in talking about the impacts of even just moving the shed, you know, directional out of that 40-foot buffer. And I have to say, I emailed Paul and said that's the best variance request I've seen written. I'm going to use that now and send that to people when they, you know, have issues with variance requests, because it was fantastic. So, did a site visit May 29th, 2024. So a long time before the NOI filing, but it was part of the process. During that, the applicant and I walked near the edge of the vernal pool near the front of the property. It's on the other side of the house. So the jurisdictional area is not shown on the plan. It may actually, the jurisdictional area may be off of the plan. I'm not 100% sure. I just wanted to state that there did appear to be a robust natural vegetated buffer to the vernal pool, and the applicant understood the importance of that feature and the regulatory protections of it. There was something from a prior owner of the property where there was a filing where there was discussion of them certifying the pool, but I think that filing ended up in a denial, so that was not a condition that was ever held to. Regarding the shed variance, that's up to the commission. They provided a coherent, sensible rationale in the variance request, formatted as KWPR 5.23 requires, and they have provided what appears to be sufficient mitigation, provided that we do get conservation posts installed in the right locations. Regarding the dock, what's existing is likely less impactful to the resource areas, but is in need of repair, at least according to the applicant. The proposal as shown appears to meet all the standards of WPA and KWPR. A Chapter 91 license would also be needed, but typically receiving OOCs is the first step, and we do have a condition, I believe, in all of our permits, and I would make sure it made it into this one that says you need all other permits in place before you build anything. So that would deal with any potential property rights issue with Great Ponds. And I had kind of a slew of special conditions that could be attached to any permit if one should be issued. Conservation posts in perpetuity, detailed allowance for maintenance of mitigation area. There's a special part in KWPR that calls for certain performance standards to be included in all orders concerning piers as continuing conditions. Boats moored to a dock shall not be allowed to release contaminants, yada, yada. You can't store those substances on it. And then structural maintenance of piers or any portion thereof shall require the owner to inquire of the commission as to whether the work will require the filing of a new NOI. Maintenance of a wooden structure shall not include the use of hazardous chemicals, cleaners, paints, or wood treatments. I did note final approval of the pressure treatment type should be through my office. As we've dealt with before, KWPR has a little bit of a wonky section on pressure treatment that really deals more with human health and not aquatic health. So typically we don't necessarily need to have those, you know, we can find something that is the least impactful to the ecology. And then the usual blurb about outdoor chemicals and fertilizer use.
Okay, any commissioners have comments or questions?
What is this path? It's this path.
Right in this location here?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's just an existing path that runs along the water's edge here.
Do you want me to pull up the aerial imagery?
Yes.
Because there's also there's a driveway on the other side of that too, right?
Do we know
Maybe a little
Right.
further
what
back.
that path is made out of? Like dirt, mulch?
It's just dirt, dirt and grass. It kind of extends all the way up here back to the existing driveway. And it carries all the way through, down through here to the adjacent property.
One more thing I didn't mention earlier is the sand area that is shown right by where the dock is, was legally permitted. I believe it was in 2006. A DOA was issued by the commission to allow redeposition of sand. So that area was sort of formalized by that as being not actual permitted beach area, which I don't think necessarily would be permitted today.
Right.
So yeah, vernal pool is down this way. Oops, too much. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm not sharing screen yet. Just give me 1 second.
Do you need me to stop sharing that?
I shouldn't, I should be able to, oh yeah, you can stop,
I might as well stop.
thanks. Okay, so vernal pool is out front here, somewhere. And here's the pond, here's the house. There's like a back lawn area, and then there's stairs connecting from, I think it's here, down through here. And this is that beach area that I was talking about that was permitted in 2006. The shed shows up in 2018. And then you can see there's no dock in that for 2023. If you switch to 2021, there's the dock. You can't see the path. The path is vegetated.
I think I can see.
Yeah, I think it's just a kind of a
Yeah.
path through the trees.
What about the fire pit? Is that allowed down there?
Oh, it's about 30 foot, so I'm gonna say no.
I'm not sure if that's something that was in the 2006 filing off the top of my head. I don't know if I have it in the,
Hey, Matt, this is Dave, the homeowner here. The fire pit was included in the 2006 filing.
It was?
To my knowledge. Yep.
yeah, it
Yeah, and
says,
regarding the path, the path, I believe, actually shows up on site plans that go back, like, pretty much as long as the property existed. I believe it was captured as like a cart path that's existed for some time for access to the small pond.
Is the fire pit a brick stove?
yeah, that's what it says for the 2006. RDA filed for paving the existing driveway to rebuild a brick open stove and re-sand beach area. The associated DOA that was issued was for paving existing driveway within 100 feet of vernal pool, re-sanding beach adjacent to small pond within the 25-foot no disturb zone, and rebuild a brick stove.
Any other comments from the commission? Questions?
So let's start from the beginning. So what is the ask?
So the ask is permit the dock, which is replacement of a non-permitted temporary dock with a permanent permitted dock that does appear to meet the basic standards of the state and local, and issue a variance to keep the shed in place, as opposed to saying, with mitigation, with the vegetation there, hopefully providing additional protection for the pond. As much buffer as you can get to there, the better. Or the commission doesn't have to do that. There's nothing that says you have to. It's just, I'm sure they bought the house with the shed there. They'd rather not have to remove it or move it, that sort of thing. For them, it's the best case scenario if the commission can permit it and keep it in place. It's up to the commission to determine, is it better to have mitigation, make them move it, which would provide some disturbance on its own, or make them remove it and revegetate the area to what it was before 2018, which would be, you know, I would say for sure the correct route if the person in front of us was the person who had done that work, you know. This wasn't kicked off through an enforcement process just by having a conversation with the homeowner saying like, this is something that, you know, this may end up an enforcement issue, and he, you know, took it upon himself to start the process of trying to get everything permitted so that he didn't have any issues going forward.
And so once, again, I'm gonna make an assumption for now that the dock would be approved. In our language, you said that you would have to then go and get the 91A, Chapter
Yeah.
91 approvals,
Yeah,
and then and only then he could construct it.
correct.
And what is in the shed now?
Just some boats right now, a couple of kayaks and some like fishing materials and things of that sort.
Okay, so, so I'm fine with the shed staying there with, I think we should add to the order of conditions if we do this, that there can be no storage of any hazardous materials, you know, oil, gas, grease, blah, blah, pesticides, yada, yada, yada. So, my opinion, and, I'm fine with the dock, so.
I just had a question as far as the mitigation area goes.
Oh, and wait,
Oh,
sorry. one
I
last
thought you
thing.
were done, sorry.
I thought it was too. Where would the, I don't see conservation posts on the plan. Where are we wanting the conservation posts?
Right. Essentially, it's wherever the commission decides they'd be most impactful. I think we had a similar recent filing where it's a smaller area than you would typically have for spacing. Usually we would space them out 50 feet, but in cases of a smaller mitigation area or one with, you know, more curved lines or something, you would put them closer.
Well,
Closer.
Yeah, but, so normally, let's pretend we weren't working in the buffer zone between the 100 and the 30. Wouldn't the post normally go at the 30-foot no disturb zone?
Posts would go either at the edge of a no disturb zone or the edge of a mitigation area.
Okay, but why can't we have both?
You could. I mean, from a wetlands protection standpoint, my biggest issue on this property is the cleared area right up against the pond. That's just not good for anything, but that was permitted already. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think any additional vegetative protection for the pond is a plus. You know, I'd have to check legality of it, but you could even potentially have some sort of a condition that states that that shed can't be rebuilt, that once it degrades, it has to be removed and the area revegetated. Yeah.
Could be a long time.
It could be a long time, but
Yeah.
if that's, you know, you certainly wouldn't permit in any other situation, somebody putting a shed 19 feet from a
Right.
BVW and 25-ish feet from a pond. So,
I guess where I was going with that is, at some point, this property's gonna be, you know, sold in the future, whenever that is. And that's not a dig against the current owner, that's just the nature of property, right? So I was thinking that we would allow the mitigation, put some posts around it, and add additional posts at wherever the 30, the 40, or the 50 along the entire line at every 50 feet, and have that monumented in the plan, so that when the next owner comes along, they can't claim ignorance that they didn't know what was there.
Does that 30-foot line go through the trees?
yeah, the 30-foot goes between the 30-foot definitely goes within, in the trees, and it would be landward of the path that's shown.
So they really
That's to
wouldn't
the right.
show, would they?
Yeah.
Not especially.
Again, they're gonna be on the plan, so it just gives us,
Yeah.
you know, down the road documentation, just like we've done in the past, right? Saying this is what you have, now we have an as-built of the entire property. And so at some point, when something else occurs, someone can go to the file 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, this is what you knew was there, this is filed on record. You know, you don't have the excuse of I didn't know. That's my
Hey,
point.
Matt, would it be okay if I pull up the plan again real quick here so we can kind of look at that area again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just share my screen. So are we saying that we want to put posts along this 30-foot no disturb line here? Is that exact?
Somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just, I want them, again, one of them goes through the shed, so maybe it's the 40-foot. So I don't know the right answer on, again, when we have properties like this that come in front of me, and I'm speaking for myself now, I always say, okay, we've got to deal with what's there. I understand the systems, you know, you're trying to make things right. I appreciate the mitigation, but now I want to say, okay, this is what you have, is a full plan, there's posts, so that someday in the future, similar to some other properties that have come back recently, you say, listen, you had this plan, it was recorded, there's no reason that you can stand here and say, plead ignorance.
Here's a idea.
Matt?
What about conservation posts on the pondward edge of the cleared area as it shows on the 2006 DOA? If we can't, if the 2006 DOA plan is not sufficient enough because it was a sketch somebody put on the back of a napkin, then, you know, I could figure out with Paul what makes the most sense. Basically, the point would be that as landscape maintenance practices over the years, it doesn't get expanded a little bit at a time with a weed whacker, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That might get to what you were
Okay,
getting at.
that's where I'm going with that. So I'm
To
fine with
protect
that.
it.
Yeah. Well, again, we're just establishing where we're at today and no more, right?
Yeah, and I would say that, you know, as far as, you know, the area of the path there to the right, I mean, there's really no legal authority to clear anything over there anyways. So I think with a plan, you wouldn't necessarily have to put conservation posts over there. You could put them at the 30 or 40 or something over there, and the path itself would be on the plan as pre-existing.
Okay.
But there may or may not be benefit.
Well, again, the more documentation we can get as it exists today, then later on, they can't say, oh, we didn't know, right? So, again, just to summarize my position, I'm okay with the shed, I like the mitigation. I'd like to see some way of monumenting what's there today, so we have that for the record. And then I'm fine with the dock, with the proviso that they have to go get their 91 permit, and there can be nothing hazardous stored in the shed.
And the material used for the,
And the material used for the dock needs to be approved. The posts. Thank you, Doctor.
so I did have a question regarding the mitigation area. I know we talk a lot about chemicals, the runoff, the potential for negative impact that way. Is there a way to plant the mitigation area so that it would disallow using anything on it and it just grows?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you may have nursery stock that already has a ton of chemical in
Yeah,
it.
going in.
The osmocote and everything
Right,
in the
right.
soils, but, I mean, you could even specify maybe that it doesn't, I don't know. I'm sure there's a way to find plants that aren't already burdened by that, but it would be a pretty easy condition to say, you know.
But going forward.
I would say you're gonna put the general outdoor condition anyways, and maybe specifically call out no fertilizer application within, I don't know, 50 feet? It's the typical outdoor special condition that we use does not ban fertilizer,
know.
which is in a way problematic because we use that kind of natural language, but
Right,
natural
but nitrogen's
fertilizer can have.
nitrogen, so-
Yeah, so,
That's why I'm asking.
yeah, that would be easy enough to do.
So they're looking to increase the dock. Did you say they need a variance for that or no?
No.
Did
No,
you
it meets
Yeah,
all of the
details.
KWPR and state standards for the dock.
Like the size standards as well?
Yeah.
Okay, like the maximum and, alright.
And you're deciding upon the material?
I would
That is
say they're coming to me with, hey, this is what we want to use, and I say yes or no.
Okay, because what is it, ACQ and copper azole, are there other options besides those two things that I read about?
Off the top of my head, the copper azole is very common now. It's like the home, right, is it MCA, I think?
Yeah, MCA is what the contractor had spoken with had proposed, but open to accommodating anything that the commission recommends.
Yeah, I would have to check my
Okay.
records, but I'm pretty sure MCA is one of the least, is one of the most benign now from a wetlands protection standpoint. I mean, no matter what, you put PT in a water body or in a wetland,
Right.
you are leaching something.
Something.
But that is, as far as I know, the least impactful.
Are we all set? Any comments from
Anybody
the,
else?
from the public in this regard? Present or online? All right, do I have a motion to close this hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay. It's been a motion to close the hearing. It's been seconded. Dot?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Kalina? Yes. Buzz?
Yes?
Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Okay, so the hearing is closed. Do I have, would someone articulate a motion at this point to,
I'll do my best. So I'll make a motion to approve the NOI with the following provisions. One, oh, you have a cheat sheet for me? You're the best.
You could say the special conditions
Yeah.
as stated by the agent, because I read most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna, thank you. So I'm gonna say with the special conditions as read by the agent, with the addition that nothing hazardous can be stored in the shed, that conservation posts should be installed around the proposed mitigation area, that we grant the variance to leave the shed in its current location with the understanding that it can't be expanded or enlarged in any way, and that conservation posts will be placed along the beach area with direction from the agent to establish a firm boundary so it does not expand over time.
And,
so we have a motion? Do we have a,
That's built in.
are we ready?
okay.
Do I have a second?
Hold on one second. Did we
Yes.
have, also, we were gonna make sure that chapter 91 permit before construction.
Yeah, and add, thank you. And
And-
that they need to go, once we're done with us, they need to go get the chapter 91 permit and provide that to the commission prior to constructing the dock.
And Marilyn had suggested no chemicals or fertilizer in the mitigation planting and no fertilizer within 50 feet of wetlands.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that, well, it says that right here in our
But
special
I added
condition.
no use.
Yeah, she
What?
kinda,
I
she
added
added
no
some
use.
complexity to
Oh,
it.
no use, okay.
Some situational complexity, which I like.
All right, so I will add the friendly amendment saying no use of.
Okay, so we had, are we,
Second?
we have a motion and it's been seconded. Dot?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Kalina's a yes. Buzz?
Yes?
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Seabird.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, we're gonna move on to section C. This is 18 Old Orchard Lane. This is for a notice of intent for the proposed demolition and rebuilding of a single-family house and the moving of a shed within coastal buffer zones. Sounds familiar. Would you do me, and would you remember to sign the, did you sign in? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Can't reach that.
Here you go. This was handed in, Matt, for the commission. Do you have any comments, Matt?
We'll let them give a presentation first. This is a new one.
All right, thank you very much. Just identify yourself for the record
set.
and...
Joe Webby, Webby Engineering. With me is Mark Guidaboni, and this is 18 Old Orchard Lane. Currently, there's an existing dwelling on the property. It's on this side, and what they would like to do is demolish that existing dwelling and create a new dwelling approximately the same size. It's a little bit bigger, in the same area. We had Brad Holmes from ECR delineate the wetlands resource areas.
Can you
And
just
I
hold on
know,
one second, Mr. Webby? Can you pull that up, Matt?
Pulling it up
Just
now.
for people
Sure.
looking online. or-
We have a camera up there from ECR on this one. Before you take away.
You're on the next page, right? The second sheet?
well, you can start with whatever one you want on that.
Don't like the way they do PDFs on this. It's frustrating. Is that a
So
good?
the existing dwelling is right in this area. We are proposing to build a new dwelling right in the same area. There is I guess, I'm not sure what they're calling this now, either perennial or intermittent stream. I'll leave that up to Brad and Matt. But we also have an associated BVW with that, and we have 30s, 40s, and 50s, and 100. I know that Matt and Brad have been, there's some letters going back and forth, so I can't speak on that issue. I don't know if Mark has anything else to say.
Would you like to, would you just identify yourself for the record?
So I'm Mark Guidaboni. I'm the trustee of Old Orchard Realty Trust. I'm one of the owners, but there are several that I represent moving forward. So the reason for this request is that 18 Old Orchard Lane is a very old structure. It was located by my grandfather off of Route 3 when they built it, so that was just a little while ago. And it was placed on the ground, and it's structurally unsound. It's rotted away, and there really isn't anything to replace within it. There's no foundation to speak of. It has some concrete blocks to stop the wind from blowing under it, but basically, structurally, it's not really sound. It is currently occupied, but it is a situation we need to address with a new structure. So we've asked to replace it. We're hoping and seeking a rectangle because this footprint of 24 by 36 meets a myriad of different house plans that are easy to do. You can see the area with the cutout for the porch right now would be very hard to build a structure. So we're going from 726 square feet to an 864 request. It's 140 or so square foot. We're limited rather strongly by an existing 20-foot wide permanent sewer easement. So we can't build on that. So we're bringing the building as far from the resource area, which, again, I'll let Matt speak to. I think his staff report gave it a lot of discussion that I'm sure you guys have read. So we're moving it further from that. And in an effort to move it a little further away from the velocity zone, which is not really a factor here, and to accommodate the needs of the abutter at 17 Old Orchard Lane that does have a deeded easement over our property to get to their structure at 17. That house is currently in disrepair and will probably be seeking a permit, I assume, at some point from you. So by sliding the dwelling a little further from that, both the ocean resource and from that dwelling, we're giving them a little bit more room to accommodate that. We understand that there's a PVW that was identified by Brad Holmes on his site. If you could slide it back up. We are prepared to also remove the 8x8 shed. It's a structure that weighs about 300 pounds. Matt and I discussed that the impact would probably be minimal to have 8 guys pick it up and just walk it out of there instead of turning around and trying to make it some kind of a project with an excavator. If necessary, we can demolish it in sight and rebuild it on the other side somewhere else. The location that we were proposing on this plan did have some review from the building inspector, and he was going to get back to me because currently they have to define with this weird shaped lot what exactly is the front yard. So zoning doesn't allow a shed in the front yard. So we would have to address that issue. At one point, if it really gets to the point, we'll demolish it and seek a permit to construct it somewhere else outside of your jurisdiction at a different time. We're removing all this concrete walkways and patio area in an effort, and we are actually providing less impervious surface with the new plan than we currently have. I think that's about it from right now, unless you have any questions.
Okay, Matt, do you have anything to say?
Sure. We received a couple NOI support memos from ECR. The original narrative from Webby was never updated. So what ECR sent did meet the filing requirements, got the date, everything like that. But just for the administrative record, we're still left with some conflicting or erroneous information on the older project narrative. And that was just kind of hard to put together during review, and just wanted to state that for the record, that there may still be things in the official record of this file that are not representative of what we're discussing now because of the way that came together. I skip through some of the specifics. So they are moving, essentially there's an existing single-family house, and as you said, they're moving it further away from the inland bank of some sort of a stream / ditch. Essentially stream. It is getting closer to the BVW, but I would say regardless of what type of stream that is, streams have higher level of protection than a BVW associated with a stream. So I would still consider that to be moving it, you know, and I believe restrictions on easements make it difficult to move it away from both resource areas. I did, and I spoke with Mark about this the other day, say that, you know, the sewer easement precludes moving the structure any further unless it could be sited on the southeast portion of the lot. This is an odd-shaped lot. It has this kind of horseshoe over here where there is what appears to be sufficient space to build a house. I sort of brought that up with Mark. I said, hey, that'll be something that's on my review. There are mature apple trees there, so that is basically an apple orchard that has been, I believe, historic on the property. So that would be, I guess, one reason for not doing that, but it needed to be brought up anyways. If it could be sited there, there would be no filing with the commission needed, and that inner riparian area could be naturalized. They propose a stone drainage swale around 3 sides of the proposed residence and a 250 square foot mitigation planting area, which I'll pull up on a different plan in a second. Project proposes to reduce jurisdictional impervious surfaces from 4.59% to 4.44%. Stream versus ditch versus perennial stream versus intermittent stream. How much do you want to get into?
Well,
I think we ought to clean it up and just to get it defined once and for all. This keeps coming up, and
So when
chances
that-
are it'll come up again.
when that-
You're not interrupting me, are you?
I would never think of that. When we did the permit for the playground / concession stand, I'm pretty sure it was defined back then, no?
Sort of, yeah. We didn't even look at it.
What about the
Really?
new playground?
No, we looked at it.
I don't think we even looked at it. I remember that when I had the first conversation with Mark, I said, yeah, that DOA only approved the project. It didn't confirm the boundaries, and I was completely wrong. They checked off the box for confirm the wetland resource area boundaries, and we definitely did not do that. So that was a mistake, I'll say, on my office's end, that we did not, consider that we did not look at that resource area. I don't know what it is, truthfully. I don't know if it is man-made or not. I've said a few times in recent history that it really doesn't matter whether it was dug, straightened. A lot of times streams are straightened. They're still streams. Something that you dug that has water flowing, still a stream.
It's functioning, yeah. I
you
can
know-
attest that it's been there 75 years.
Yeah, and I think and I haven't really spoken with Brad about this, but just in reviewing the two different memos that he sent, you know, at one point it seemed that, that he was indicating that it technically met, you know, a perennial stream, and then in the other one was saying type 4 intermittent stream. Personally, I've never seen it not flow.
Me either.
But personally, I get where Marilyn's coming from on this. She likes cleanness and getting things done. I think in this particular situation, I don't think it matters what that feature is. I think the commission is going to make a decision based on the project meeting the guidelines and based on getting the best protection for the resource areas possible. I don't think it matters whether it's perennial or intermittent when the area in question has been developed for a long time. Therefore, it would meet the redevelopment standards anyways, which they did design it to meet that anyways. So my standpoint from it, after writing, you know, an entire page of background on all of this for you all to read, is that I don't know that we need to do that on this filing, and I think it would be feasible to issue a determination one way or the other on the project itself with a special condition stating that by no means does this decision render a determination on what that wetland boundary is. That's my take on it. Any more conversation on that part of it before?
My take would be, why not figure it out now instead of down the road? So that way, if this next filing comes up, his neighbor there, if they come up, then what? Then we do it then, or do we do it now?
I mean,
That's too.
I guess we didn't do it when it was our filing for a town project, is my
So we can eat these
problem with
words
that.
in a couple of years and be like, oh, we should have done it then. Or,
So I did write down there the 2021 NOI filing, and Nick's right there, and he was part of this project. For 17 Old Orchard Lane was withdrawn before decision, so it doesn't really matter from that standpoint, but the wetland delineation by South River Environmental dated February 24th, 2020 flags this as an inland bank to a type 4 intermittent stream.
Does it say why it was called an intermittent stream?
No.
I've never seen it.
There may be files on that buried in the 17 Old Orchard Lane. I didn't go back to look and find his original sheet. He usually does include something, but not necessarily to that level of detail. Yeah.
But didn't Brad comment in one of the memos that it was on the USGS as a perennial stream?
Yep, yeah, the July
we're not making
28th,
this up.
2024 ECR delineates on-site wetlands and flagged the inland bank of a supposed intermittent stream, but then a review of USGS maps detailed this as a perennial stream, though it is shown in a straight line. He reviewed the site conditions and said the banks are steep and it appears to be the result of ditching activities in an attempt to drain the BVW that sits up gradient closer to the train tracks. And ECR states that man-made streams do not carry riverfront area protections under WPA regs, but I'm not sure that any of that is necessarily relevant in this situation. You really can't prove that that's man-made, and like we've stated, it's already designed to meet the redevelopment standards for riverfront area. Let's say, then ECR, hold on one second.
Excuse me, Commissioner, I don't mean
No,
to
let me finish, please. Under KWPR, barring any observations of lack of flow, it's considered a perennial stream. So, and that is pointed out by ECR. And then in the next memo
Right.
number 2, ECR calls it a type 4 intermittent stream, claiming that the performance standards of KWPR regarding perennial streams do not apply. I think no matter what, redevelopment standards apply in this situation, and my advice would be that we don't get to the point of whether this is perennial, intermittent, man-made or not for this particular filing, because I think no matter what, the end result is gonna be the same. And I would feel the exact same way when 17 Old Orchard Lane comes up as well.
I agree. Me personally. My personal feeling is 100% man, hand dug, so, back in the day.
Feelings.
It's pretty obvious when, I've walked that whole thing, it's pretty obvious to me that it was dug by hand.
But it's also how it functions.
Right.
I'm not disputing that,
No, I'm just saying, you
there
can't-
was something there and it got, straightened.
Yeah.
And made to work properly.
My bottom line on stuff like this is there is a stream there. It is carrying things out into the bay. Any filing that comes across the commission's desk, you want to make sure you're minimizing what gets
100%.
into that feature.
I'd
So
like
I
to
think,
recognize Mr. Guidoboni, had a comment.
Thank you, and we're willing to make all the accommodations we possibly can, without the definition being defined at this point. I will add that it did not come up, but Plymouth County's mosquito control does maintain that drainage ditch, or whatever we're calling it, as a part of their ongoing maintenance process. They actually visited the site the day after Matt did, on the 21st of March, identifying that it would either be cleaned out again this year or next year. So it is a man-modified structure on a regular basis going forward. And then the only other part, Matt, back when Brad originally cited in his definitions, he did not feel there was enough wetland area providing the source for this stream or whatever to actually qualify as perennial, I believe. But I can't find his memo, his original, and Cameron is on, maybe he's got a copy of it and can cite the argument. But we're willing to do our absolute best to respect, regardless of how it's defined.
yeah, personally, my professional recommendation here, right or wrong, is that I don't think the commission needs to know that in this situation. You already have a situation where on both sides, on private property and on town property, this particular feature is heavily encroached on. So rather than focus on categorizing it, when we definitely were not concerned with that on the other project. Now, I will state that was a project that was completely within its existing boundaries, that was improving stormwater flow, so that's, I think, part of why it was felt to be unimportant at the time, but I see it as being equally unimportant now, not the feature itself, but the classification of it. Either way, you can permit a project on this property while improving conditions for that stream.
Anything else from the commission on this?
Let me just see if I have anything else down here. I forget if there was any update on this, but from all the updates to the narrative and support memos and everything, we still had no formal variance requests. The existing structure is already within the 50-foot KWPR no structure area, but there's no grandfathering. So there would still need to be a formal variance requested and issued. I had earlier mentioned the likely need for a variance request on the 40-foot stormwater setback, but that was on an earlier version of the plan that showed subsurface infiltration galleries. Those were removed in favor of additional crushed stone swale, and I don't believe that a crushed stone swale would need that same variance personally.
Could that be a special condition, or would that have to be done first?
I mean,
Request for a variance.
we need it one way or the other. He already mentioned that they're planning on moving the shed by hand. Proposed mitigation plantings are outside the limit of work as well. That's likely acceptable as long as planting is done with hand tools and no machinery. We talked about yard waste. When we did the site visit, there was a big pile of yard waste, including decomposing grass clippings. It was roughly 5 to 10 feet from the stream. I talked with Mark about the need to remove that source of pollution to Kingston Bay. He agreed. So that's gonna get done. And we've talked a lot about stream classification. Conservation posts, obviously, you can see now the mitigation overlay by ECR is up there. One thing that I sort of mentioned on that was that the way the property slopes, it would be beneficial to have that mitigation area cross that 100-foot buffer line and go really as far down in that direction as was feasible. There is a sort of a gate with a pathway that goes across to Gray's Beach, and I believe Mark said that is under his control. So that was my only real comment on the mitigation, was that it would make more sense shifting further down gradient.
Then I would ask my question again about disallowing fertilizer and chemicals.
Yeah, I think I wrote that down. Special conditions, should a permit be issued, conservation posts in perpetuity, detailed allowance for maintenance and mitigation area. Did we have a stockpile of silt sock on this plan, or did I just copy that in from something else?
Yeah, I believe it's the orange line, it's the silk.
The orange one.
No, do we have a stockpile, though?
Yeah, I think on the.
It's on another plan, it's showing.
It is, okay.
it's
Yeah,
up.
so proposed additional stockpile of silt sock should be reviewed as part of the pre-work ESC check. Any dumpster used as part of this project must be covered. We could talk specifics on that, but we've included that, you know, in a few others recently. The usual outdoor chemicals and fertilizers blurb could add the same thing that Marilyn just talked about on the last filing with, you know, either specifically not using it in the mitigation plantings, but also, you know, disallowing fertilizer within a certain distance. Marcus told me they don't use any on the property, but you can still formalize things through conditions. And my recommendation language regarding not confirming the stream type. If that's what the commission wants to do.
Shall remain a mystery.
And so my only thing that I don't see is, doesn't appear to be, we're not controlling the runoff from the roof.
That is not on this plan. I can pull up the other plan. There were stone swales on 3 sides of the structure.
Yeah.
Are there conservation posts on a different plan shown?
No, there are no conservation posts shown in the plan, so that would be a special condition.
We have a detail on our plan showing the swales at the drip edges of the house.
Let me share this and I can show you.
So you're not gonna have gutters?
I'd prefer not to have gutters and have it drop into the crushed stone and permeate. It's just an easier treatment for future maintenance going forward.
And where would the cars park for this house now?
There is you see where it says existing gravel parking? We're up there. We may increase that up, but it's outside the 100-foot buffer to a double thing. It's actually on the road layout, if you notice. It actually doesn't go on the lot. The roadway is 12 feet wide here, and it's displaced to ocean side of the 40-foot layout. So we have plenty to park in that area. That's likely where it would end up. But our pre-construction, our stockpile is actually right in that vicinity on the plan.
Yeah, I saw it on the
Yeah,
other plan,
okay.
yeah.
Buzz, this gray hashed area is the proposed stone swale for stormwater runoff.
Okay, thank you.
And I think there is a detail as well, if you want to see that.
So it sounds like we need the mitigation to move up to the top more, is what you were saying on the previous plan?
I mean, that's my recommendation. This area right here
Yeah.
is, I would say, where the highest impact would be, because there is a sort of a slope from this direction here. So if you're talking about, you know, runoff off of the roof or from other parts of the property, I think a lot of it is likely to go that way and not directly over here. you know, obviously as much buffer as you can get on that stream, the better. But,
And where would the conservation post go? Along the mitigation?
yeah, at the edge of the mitigation area. There's the detail on drainage swales.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else from the commission?
Well, are we still waiting for the variance request?
Well, we need a variance request, we need the mitigation change, we need the post shown. What else do we need?
Post shown.
Need the mitigation extended. Need the language about the shed being hand carried. Need Maryland's language about the pesticides and fertilizer. And what was the variance request for?
The 50-foot no structure,
Got it.
and I believe that should be 50-foot no structure to BVW and Inland Bank.
I'm sorry, Matt, to the BV, I couldn't hear the rest of it.
50-foot no structure to BVW and Inland Bank.
We have that in our narrative broadcast of the hand carry.
Are there any members of the public who have any comments on this? Public present? Online? Okay.
I don't see anything.
Great. We ready for a motion?
I guess I would ask
Yeah, time was, what do you need?
how long you need.
Plan update? Certainly by the next meeting.
Okay.
Well, we need it the week before the meeting.
Should be able to do that.
Can you get it by
Yeah,
next Wednesday?
next Wednesday. We'll do that.
Okay.
Let me ask, Cameron, you still on there? We're gonna need the plan with the posts identified and an expansion towards the ocean area there, I guess, to the east.
Yeah, no problem, we can do that. As I understood it, it's a shifting of the mitigation area, right, not an
No.
expansion?
Extension.
I think they want to extend it the entire length of the resource area all the way to the lot line of the neighbor, correct?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yep.
Okay, we'll do, we'll extend that and we'll add the conservation markers.
By Wednesday, we're good. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
You need a motion?
April
So,
9th.
I move that we continue this in what is the date?
April 9th.
April 9th.
There's a motion to continue this to April 9th. Do we have a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Dot?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Lena's a yes. Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes?
And Brian?
Yes.
Motion carries. See you then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. See you on the 9th.
Have a good night.
So we've been moving on to Section D. Section D is for 2 Braintree Avenue. This is also a notice of intent for construction of additions to a single-family house within the land subject to coastal storm flowage and the buffer zones to coastal resource areas. Do you want to make your comments first, Matt, or do you want to hear from the representative?
I guess we should hear from Nick. We just got updates today, So I think I chided Nick about that we should continue this because we need things 1 week early, but since we've already gone through, I would say 99% of this project through 2 different hearings, I said you should probably show up tonight and just see if you can present to the commission and if they'll hear what you have to say and hopefully get this thing
Without having
done.
read it beforehand.
And you didn't bring
I
any,
gave a very quick
you didn't
review.
bring any cookies or anything?
And I gave feedback, and my understanding is he has already emailed me things that I have not looked at that dealt with some of those concerns.
Nick, would you identify yourself for the record?
Yes, first of all, pardon my voice. I lost my voice and it hasn't fully come back yet. So if I'm difficult to hear, just let me know. Before I begin, I do actually have paper copies for the entire commission. Would you like me to distribute those to you individually?
Just give us your full name for the record before you do anything
Nicholas
else.
Charles Lang with Grady Consulting on behalf of the owner.
Thank
Here,
you.
hand me those, I'll take care of them. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
No? 'Cause that's on the, I put that on the list.
Big.
Pardon?
So it's pretty big.
Just for, there is a letter that went along with that says, plan revisions are as follows. A 4-inch tree has been proposed in the front yard as requested. A dry well has been proposed attached to the front addition as requested. Conservation posts and markers have been proposed in 25-foot intervals as requested.
I'll give you one moment, just take a quick glance at that real quick.
You ready?
Ready? All righty. So we'll work from front to back. As the letter stated that Matt just read, you'll see there's a pink tree proposed in the front yard, the 4-inch caliber as specified. Our landscape architect has proposed a dogwood tree, but we are open to the commission's suggestions as to a specific type of tree. The owner would like to request that there be some leniency with the exact placement relative to what's shown on the plan. There's an understanding it should be in the front yard. That is not up for discussion on that end. But that specific location, we would like some leniency on exactly where she plants that at the time of planting. We have added the dry well, which actually feeds down into a trench drain along the southerly boundary there.
Where is that? Because I don't see it.
Right here. See the cursor?
Yeah.
No, where is it?
On the right side of the plan.
It runs right along adjacent to the
Oh,
property
okay.
line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's linear.
Oh, it's a trench drain.
It is a trench drain. It is fed from the roof drains. It is 2
Yeah,
feet
all right,
wide,
I see it.
2 feet wide, 1 feet deep.
Yeah, I see it, thank you.
We have actually oversized it so it can handle some of the additional runoff from the existing roof line, not only the proposed roof to be added to the plan. And we have also added the conservation markers, a total of 4, I believe. Yes, a total of 4 in the 25-foot increment spacing as requested. You'll notice the 2 at the most northerly end are closer than 25 feet, but due to the curvature of the planting area, we deemed it advisable to put those in the northern end closer together rather than on the southern end. And that was the extent of the revisions. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any comments, Matt?
Posts look good. Dry well, I defer to Buzz. And the tree I discussed with Nick earlier, I would say the species is wrong for the location and probably wouldn't do well there anyways, and it's not quite gonna do what I would think the homeowner will want it to do down the line as far as stormwater uptake. My recommendation was to just have that language be, and I think it may have already been updated on the plan update that was sent a couple hours ago, that's not in front of you, but just to say species to be coordinated with conservation agent. And the last thing was that I asked him to change the language on the plan where it says proposed 4-inch caliper tree required by the Conservation Commission as additional enforcement for 5/9/2024 enforcement order issued to prior owner, because that was not correct. It's additional mitigation for this NOI filing.
Yeah, this one just says proposed 4-inch caliber dogwood tree or approved equal.
Okay,
This
so
is
these
the
are brand
revised
new.
version that we spoke about, yes.
You're quick, man. It's good.
I try to be.
Yeah.
Does that say in perpetuity? Because isn't that supposed to be, if
For
it
this-
falls, it's supposed to be replaced? That's specified as well?
If it's not specified, I mean, it can be put in as a special condition.
I'm sorry.
The tree.
I
For-
The
couldn't-
tree is to be kept in perpetuity, so if it falls or something happens, it's to be
It's
replaced.
to be replaced.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was what we discussed at last meeting, so I just wanted to make sure that was also noted. To help with the water issues
Water uptake.
on site.
It was my understanding that that is typically a condition,
Okay.
so I apologize if you were
No,
expecting to see that.
I'm
on
just
the plan.
asking, yep, just making sure.
Yeah, so I'm fine, I like the trench, it's a good location, I like the way it looks, so I'm fine with that part.
And I wrote a note down for the location of the tree to be variable.
Yeah, again, I'm fine with that.
Right.
Yeah, as long as it's somewhere in the front yard.
Yep.
And yes, I'm aware that I called it the front yard the wrong way last time.
Well, that is the front yard.
I know.
The other-
Last time I was on the ocean side.
The other front.
Well, you could say that's part of this filing. She doesn't have a front door on the street side right now.
There
Right.
you go. So,
I don't know necessarily if we discussed special conditions at any of the past hearings. I think we might have. My expectation of them, they would be nearly identical to what I put together for 20 Shore Drive. The two properties are very similar.
Right.
Any
again.
questions
just,
or concerns on that?
The note, just verifying the notation about, no pesticides and no nitrogen. I'm fine with the language that says that, they should interface with UMAT to approve the, species of the tree. I have no knowledge of that, so I'm gonna stay out of that. So, but I think they've covered all the bases. I know it's a last minute entry, if you will. But it was pretty minor stuff we were asking for.
Right.
Do you want me to run through what the special conditions were on 20?
Sure.
Sure, and to refresh my memory on this, we did have variance requests on this because of the land subject to coastal storm flowage, correct?
We did, yes.
Okay.
I got that too.
Then I think it is identical. It will say that,
Right.
pre-construction conditions will say that the commission will provide the requested variances. And I forget if I don't think there's additional stockpile of silt sock on this plan, is there, for this project?
We have erosion control, yes. Stockpiling.
Stockpile?
No, there was no stockpiling
No,
needed.
no stockpile. Any dumpster must be covered. Materials stored at the site should be stored in a neat, orderly manner in appropriate containers and covered whenever possible. Any construction debris reaching the salt marsh or river from this site shall be cause for immediate fines. After construction conditions, restoration area must be well established before a COC can be issued. Perpetual conditions, conservation posts as detailed on the plan of record must remain in perpetuity in a visible condition. Posts or placards should be replaced as needed. The mitigation planting area, as seen in the plan of record, must be maintained in a natural state in perpetuity, consisting of plant species native to southeastern Mass. At no point may the mitigation planting area be reduced in size. Lawn encroachment and establishment of invasive plants must be prevented in the mitigation planting area. If at least 75% coverage is not maintained, the commission may require additional planting or seeding. Mulch or any other material must not be added to the areas. The intent is to achieve dense natural vegetation. Maintenance of the mitigation planting area is allowed as follows. Vegetation is allowed to be trimmed to a height of 18 inches during winter months, which is November 15th to March 31st, excepting the planted shrub and tree species. No mowing of the mitigation planting area is allowed. And then the typical outdoor chemical blurb, plus what we already mentioned specific to the property.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Let me just ask if there's any comments from members of the public online? None? Okay, can I hear that motion again?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Dot?
Yes.
Jim? No, sorry, Jim's not here. Megan?
Yes.
Colleen is yes. Buzz?
Yes?
Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion carries. The
Okay, I'll make a
Hearing's
motion
closed.
to approve the notice of intent as previously discussed with all the special conditions with the latest plan revised March 26, 2025 as the final plan of record.
Okay.
With the special provision that the tree species needs to be approved by the agent prior to placement, and also that the owner has discretion as long as the tree is planted in the front yard, it doesn't have to be specifically as shown on the plan.
Do you have a second?
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Dot,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Lena's a yes. Buzz?
Yes?
Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, good luck with the
Thank you very
project.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, so we're just gonna do one more thing, right?
Yeah.
Let's just go back to, let me find it.
Update?
Oh, we're gonna talk about,
Oh, wait, we,
Ring Road?
Ring Road, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to open a public meeting to discuss the request for amendment or deviation for 126 and 131 to 137 Ring Road. This has been submitted by Beals and Thomas on behalf of Ring Road Solar LLC. This is their file number is SE 037-0889 and 0890. What do you get to say, Matt?
No update.
So continue?
I reached out, asked if there had been any word back from the state electrical inspector. They said they had not heard back yet, and I recommend continuing to April 9th.
Do I
Make
have
that
a-
motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to continue to April 9th. It's been seconded. Dot?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Clena's a yes. Buzz?
Yes?
Marilyn?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. We'll see them on
And what was that date again?
April
Colleen?
9th.
April 9th? Thank you.
There is an enforcement matter at 44 Rayboth Road. We have rescheduled this discussion to April 23rd, 2025. Could we move it to May 14th? Is that the,
We could. I said, I wrote in there based on our conversation at the last meeting, to move it back by 30 days. I won't be here April 23rd. I'll be on vacation.
I will not be there.
So I would say, I think we're still planning on having a conservation meeting, and Juliana is, who will be back very, very, very soon.
not soon
Just
enough?
so you know, I won't be here either on the 20th.
You won't be there either?
So-
All right, well,
Maybe we won't be having a
maybe we need to be canceling the April
Right.
23rd meeting.
I'm actually away as well, but
You
I,
are?
Oh, my
I could,
goodness.
I could zoom in, so if you need me, I could zoom in.
I will double check.
Right.
I think we might already have something on there as like an RCOC request or something. If that's the case, I'll let them know that the meeting's being canceled.
Okay.
The April 23rd?
April 23rd, yeah, so
So we're gonna
March,
put this
I'm
on
sorry,
May
May
14th?
May 14, yeah.
Okay, great. We have no minutes to approve. Let's see, we've got an administrative review, one of 36 Reed Street, the hazard tree.
Yeah, I had a homeowner at 36 Reed Street, which is right off of Pembroke Street, reach out about a tree that tipped over during a storm. He had a tree company come out to look at it, and the tree company said, hey, you should call conservation, which I was very appreciative of. Colonial Tree,
Really?
yeah, local company.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I went down, took a look at it. The tree is growing right out of a stream. So, I mean, it couldn't get any closer, and the tree was not leaning towards their house. So I asked Sean Turner, the superintendent for highway, and the tree warden to take a look at it and tell me if he thought it was dangerous to Pembroke Street or the sidewalk. And he said, yeah, it could be hazardous in that situation if it knocked the other tree down and came down all the way to the ground. So I talked with the tree company, specified, or sort of asked him what his vision of how he would do it was, and he said he would bring a crane and do it from Reed Street and just top the whole thing. Because I said we would want to leave as much of the tree in place as possible, and to swap out the bar oil with a vegetable-based oil for the cut. And he said he would do all of that. So I issued that administrative review permit. I can show you pictures if you want, but it would just be boring for you.
Nothing like a good tree video.
It's just a picture, it's not even a video.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do Do you need to update us on the
You're not gonna go
KWPR
viral like
standard
that.
condition update review for the next meeting?
Yeah, I put a document in your prep materials for potential additions or, you know, swaps for KWPR standard conditions. I'll put that on the next agenda, so if you want to review those.
Okay.
It's not intended to be a complete overhaul. It's just things that I found from other towns or certain things that I reworded of our own that I thought made a lot of sense. So take a look at those and let me know if you have any issues with any of that for the next meeting.
Okay. We ready? The next meeting will be held on April 9th, 2025, starting at 6:30 PM. The time is now 8:27. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second?
Get a motion and a second. Dot,
Yes?
Megan,
Yes.
Kalina says Buzz,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much. It's been lovely.
Good night.